What's up, guys?
It's the Bear
and the Ginger. We are going to be breaking down UFC Fight Night 170, aka UFC Brasilia, aka the Coronavirus Smash event, aka this is basically a really great tough, aka smash the like button. And guys, this
for the YouTube algorithm.
Yeah, for the YouTube algorithm.
This is a Brazil card for sure. We have
it's a great card.
Charles Oliveira, potentially being able to break in to a good
surging Brazilian hero.
Yeah, exactly.
We've got Demian Maia, continuing to be the granddaddy of MMA and winning inexplicably with an amazing record of 28-9, mostly in the UFC, which is phenomenal.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then Renata Meccano is making his debut in the lightweight division. Ooh, I'm excited for that.
I'm so excited for that too. I think that lightweight really fits his frame as well, and I'm curious if it's going to be a Dustin Poirier type thing.
I hope so.
Then we've got Johnny Walker, who we're going to essentially see like where he belongs in the division. So this is kind of a different video for us, but we just wanted to go through these guys, and you can kind of tell, especially I think UFC does this with Brazil a lot, is they usually try to put on matchups that are going to be incredibly interesting to the Brazilian fighters, like to place them, to figure out where they are in the divisions. It's usually very much like we're at a crossroads in a lot of these fighters' careers. Yeah. And we just want to go through and talk about what this fight means for these guys, because you can very much see like the names we just mentioned are the reason why this fight is taking place
in Brazil. So let's start with Demian Maia, because we already talked about Charles Oliveira.
So check out that breakdown, Kevin Lee Oliveira. We did a really good breakdown on that on our channel
yesterday.
So if you didn't watch it, where the hell were you, fake fan? Yeah, fake fan. That being said,
yeah. So Demian Maia again,
Gilbert Burns is a legit, really good fighter.
Like top 10.
Yeah.
Top 10 for sure.
And I think the biggest thing with this is like the big question around Demian Maia is where is he at in his career? Because he's such a specialist. It's a very strange dynamic where there's some fighters who, as they age, their tools, their weapons decline, and they're not able to actually win fights anymore.
But jiu-jitsu is not one of those sports where it declines very heavily as opposed to striking, right?
Especially the way that Demian Maia grapples, because there are some jiu-jitsu guys that are super explosive, and that's what they rely on. Maia is a slow technician. Maia is at his best constricting your movement, working towards his victory without many explosive movements. The big issue for him has and always is and will be getting the fight to the ground. And that's where I think we see the biggest issue. But the UFC's been matching him up with people like Gilbert Burns, who is a grappler himself. So I think if Demian Maia keeps getting these fights, I don't really see him slowing down for another 5 years.
I think this is probably going to be another Maia strangle.
He's just so good. But it'll tell us, like, that's the big question. Every Maia fight, it's like, okay, well, has he aged out of being able to be a professional athlete? Because there is still, like, he's still going against the best guys in the world. It's the UFC. And there still becomes a point where Father Time catches up with everybody. Like,
and beat you on the head with the tire rod.
It doesn't matter how good you are. When Floyd Mayweather's 95, he won't be able to fight guys in his division who are in the top 100 boxers.
Again, unless you have a specific style, right? Like
even when you have like Bernard Hopkins, right? Like he had a style where he was able to fight for a long time.
He was a very, very defensive fighter.
But eventually, Father Time still caught up with him, even though it was later.
Well, but then you even look at George Foreman, right? Like George Foreman had a style where he could just put somebody out like that, right? So that's a style conducive to fighting to your 50s, right? Like Bernard Hopkins. Like Bernard Hopkins, I think, is he still fighting now?
I hope not. He shouldn't be.
I mean, he's fucking insane. So there are men with certain styles that can fight on into their 50s. I wonder if Demian...
It's that point, though. It's like no one fights effectively after, like, 43, 44, even guys with the specific styles. So that's where it kind of like every fight, that's the big question with Maia. It's like, okay, has he passed over that hump? Has he passed over that hump? Because eventually, because fights start standing, if every fight started on the ground,
Maia could go to
I would pick Maia to still become a champion. But because every fight starts standing and frankly, you need to have explosivity in order to get the fight to the ground. Eventually, Maia is going to hit a hump, and you're going to be like, okay, well, now he's not going to be able to compete at the UFC level. he hasn't gotten there yet, and that's just a testament to his
we'll
technique.
have to see in this fight.
I don't think he's there yet. I think he's gonna be able to beat Gilbert because I think Gilbert is actually gonna want to engage him on the ground.
Yeah.
But that's Maia. That's
And
like
now,
the storyline.
I am really, really excited for this fight. Probably a little bit more excited than the Johnny Walker fight. But like Renato Meccano is making his debut in the lightweight division. I think I like Renato Meccano's style. I think that he just needs to learn how to pump that jab a lot more effectively.
He's got a great reach.
Longer. And the weight cut was probably too much for 145 for him to be very effective.
I think he's actually weirdly one of the most underrated fighters in the UFC right now.
I concur.
I think he's really good, and I think it's a Dustin Poirier situation where his frame when he was younger worked pretty well for 145, but dudes get bigger until they're 25.
He's 30. He's 30.
He's 30 now. Like, you're 25 bone-wise, you keep getting bigger. After that, if you're still being really healthy, you're working out, you got your nutrition right, it's not unusual for guys between 25 and 30 to continue to put on more size and keep building those muscles that they develop every day in training. And I think it just started to become too much of a weight cut for him. I'm incredibly curious to see what he's able to do at 155. Because I think we saw somebody like Dustin Poirier. I would say his punching power scaled exponentially moving from 145 to 155.
I agree.
Like, I did not think of him as a power puncher at 145. Then he went to 155, and I'm like, oh, like,
fucking
heavy hands, right? Not a one-punch knockout artist, but you can tell every fight that he's been in at 155, the way that he hits, it's kind of like Canelo. When you see Canelo hit people, there's a visible reaction, and they almost like get moved. It's not a whip like Wilder that puts a guy out in one punch, but it's like thudding heavy blows that wear on people.
Yep.
And you saw that in the Gaethje fight, the Alvarez fight, the Holloway fight.
Yep.
And I'm really curious because I think the biggest thing Meccano was lacking at 145 was the defensive. Some defensive things, a jab, and also I feel like he was depleting himself too much, so we can never know if he did have that punching power.
Well, exactly. Like, did he have that punching power, and also was his jabs getting lazy because he was gassed because of the weight cut, right?
And that's something people don't talk about enough. We talk about it as like, oh, their weight cut was too much. The reason a weight cut's too much is either because they're not able to rehydrate their brain correctly and they're more susceptible to being knocked out, because when you're dehydrated, there's a layer of water around your brain to literally prevent it from clunking into your skull, which is what happens when you're knocked out. When you rehydrate, if you're too dehydrated, the last place that gets rehydrated is that layer around your brain. So if you're cutting too much weight, you're way easier to just be knocked out like nothing. That's a really good question. And the other thing is it affects your cardio because your energy systems just aren't there. Like, your mitochondria literally don't have the ATP to be able for you to pump your jab out correctly, possibly. So
we're doctors, by the way.
That is it's going to be interesting. This is not the biggest test at lightweight. Everybody at lightweight in the UFC is really good, but it's definitely a fight to see how he's going to look in the division. It's very much like a get your momentum back Meccano, or his opponent is going to get a name.
Take him out, yeah.
His opponent's going to get a name, and
we'll see what it is.
Like, we're pretty hardcore fans, and I've not watched Demian Hadzovic fight before.
And again, that's just a testament to how deep lightweight is. And I've never heard of this man. I'm just gonna be honest. If you guys have heard of this man, you guys are obviously hardcore fans.
Sound off and call us casuals.
That we're casuals. And then the next one. The next
Johnny
one
Walker,
is,
baby.
And it's interesting. It's interesting, right? I've never said that like Johnny Walker could beat John Jones.
He's an incredibly fun fighter.
Yes.
He has incredible physical attributes for the division.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing with him. And
was I surprised that Corey Anderson beat him 110%? I was
in the way that he beat them, I was very surprised as well.
I was super surprised.
But Johnny Walker has major defensive liabilities.
Yeah.
I'm going to be incredibly curious where he's at, because there's a lot of times when fighters have a very wild style that's dependent on them having like Superman syndrome, where they're not worried about being damaged.
And now he's been knocked out before.
But it had been a while. And that's the thing. It's like sometimes fighters will get knocked out, then they'll go for a while without getting knocked out, and they get that confidence back.
Sure.
The biggest question to me is
where he'll be at.
Where's Walker at? His headspace at? Will he be able to take the risks to land the great shots that he was able to in the fights that were high risk, high reward?
I think he will.
Will he? And even if he doesn't,
right?
is he going to come back as a more defensively sound fighter? Because I think the biggest question around Walker is I have no doubts that he has the physical tools to be able to learn a new fighting style very, very quickly. And he's actually been out of the octagon for a long time,
really long
which
time.
I think is a good sign.
Yeah.
But with Walker, everything, it's up here to me. He is one of the best athletes we've seen at 205, in my opinion. Just the way he moves through space, his body control, what he's able to do.
Dominick Reyes over here. Johnny Walker's an athlete.
Well, the thing is, like, even Reyes. Like, Reyes is a great athlete from, like, I don't know. I think Walker has better proprioception and movement than Reyes does even.
Sure.
And that's why I think, like, Walker, if he's there mentally, could take on and learn and develop so much in a year.
Yeah.
And I'm curious.
And he's fighting. I know you don't like TriStar, but
I like TriStar. I do like TriStar.
He doesn't like TriStar.
Everyone just deep throats TriStar. I think they're one of the most overrated camps.
I think the fact that he is going to TriStar and TriStar has been shown that they are very effective with genetically gifted individuals.
That's very true. That's very fair.
And that goes for Kevin Lee. That goes for Johnny Walker.
GSP. You can't say GSP is not a defensively sound striker.
Right. I mean,
that's fair. That's fair.
And the problem with Johnny Walker is that he was not defensively sound. Right.
Yeah.
But you can have an offense where you're not defensively sound, but then when you're getting tagged, you need that defense to fall back on. And I think TriStar was probably a really good pick for Johnny Walker. And also, Johnny Walker's actually fighting somebody that has fought his name's Nikita something Russian. He is fighting somebody that has
Krylov. I always call him Nikita. Most Russian fighters, I know them as their first name.
Yeah.
So to me, he's always just been Nikita. But Nikita Krylov,
he has fought,
legit.
He lost against Glover Teixeira his last fight. Okay,
it was a split decision as well.
Yeah, exactly. He was able to submit OSP. But then he lost to Jan Blachowicz, right?
Which there's no
no shame, right?
He's a very good tested opponent. He's a true number 12. Like he deserves his ranking.
Yes.
He's very tested. He's more tested than Walker.
Than Walker, right?
Yeah.
So this is another one of those fights where it's like, okay, Johnny Walker lost to Corey Anderson.
Yeah.
Is he going to lose to another veteran?
He beat Misha.
Yep.
He lost to Corey. And this is his other... I'd say Nikita is at the same level as Misha, if not maybe somewhere around there.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there. So this is going to tell us, like, okay, was the Misha win a fluke? Because Walker's only... This is his only third legit guy.
Yeah.
Like, legit top 15 guy he's fought. And this is going to tell us a lot about Walker.
Yeah.
It's going to tell us, does he belong in the top 15? Is he able
a fun
to progress?
fighter, but we're just not going to see him ever again?
Yeah, exactly. Like, is he going to be an exciting fighter that's not going to be a factor in the division? Kind of like Uriah Faber, who, if he's on and he catches somebody, can be anybody in the division, but isn't going to win against those big matchups consistently. Who, like, has a 30% chance every time he fights a top 10 of winning, right. And sometimes he'll do it in an extraordinary fashion. I think it's, to your point, TriStar is probably the best camp for Johnny Walker because they create defensively sound strikers. When fighters have reach, when they've got awesome physical attributes, they're able to use that style to extreme effect. The reason I don't like TriStar is when they have fighters that don't have those characteristics, I think they force them into that same bubble,
right.
Which actually, I think that they sometimes favor defense. Their style relies on your physical extremities. Like, their style relies on you being an outlier physically somehow to get off offense. Mm-hmm. That's my problem. So when they have guys that don't have an outlier physicality, they're not able to actually get off offense. They're usually still defensively very sound, mm-hmm. But like they're not able to actually land anything.
Right.
That's what my issue is with TriStar.
But that's not a problem for Johnny Walker.
Exactly. Walker's the freakiest freak that I've ever freaked. So that being said, guys, let us know. Are there any narratives on the fight or on the card that we didn't cover? Yeah. I think those are the biggest narratives, aside from, like we said, Oliveira Lee, but we went into that on its own. And on top of all this, the coronavirus stuff is going insane, so that just makes the card even more interesting.
Make sure to wash your hands every 30 seconds. And smash the like button.
Yeah, smash the like button is clinically proven.
Bear,
Ginger.
We out.